Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 8 of the anime series Snow White with the Red Hair. And this one was highly intriguing in the calling back on Zen's past that we get. Also in parallel to what is unfolding currently with Shirayuki and Zen's appointing Obi, of all people, to be her attendant, to be her safeguard and protector, keep an eye on her. Because of, basically the aftermath of Raj's inadvertently referring to them as being, engaged or what have you. You have people who are trying to get closer and more in observance of Shirayuki. They feel like maybe they'll benefit if they befriend her and treat her a certain way, get to Zen, get to the royalty through her and that kind of thing. And that's going to be problematic. And Zen is really upset about it. So he wants somebody to be there, to guide her and protect her and keep a watchful eye on her. And it's kind of comical how they're dealing with this Rokka fruit fermentation process, and I'm wondering how far along Shirayuki's knowledge of what's going on with that is. Like, does she think they're just making fruit punch? Because at some point she's talking about, well, we're going to pick the fruit and don't, inhale it too much. You can get intoxicated just from the, the aroma or the output of this fruit. We're going to put it in jars. We're going to put it down in the, she doesn't call it a wine cellar, but that's effectively what it is. And she says the last batch 6 months ago, they'll be ready about now. What does she think they're doing? I mean, she takes gobbles out of that glass, like, when Garrick is laughingly telling him, have a taste. You should get familiar with this. And, of course, Obi is there to have a taste as well. And he knows exactly what it is. Apparently, he's well familiar with having a drink and such. And I'd be more like Shirayuki. I do not drink, so I'd probably take one little sip and be knocked out. She is effectively knocked out. And, of course, Garrick is like, well, yes, of course, it's alcohol. What did you think it was, And so I don't know. I guess Shirayuki was not necessarily familiar with that process, and now it's a learning curve for her. And, of course, the hallmark to the flashbacks is, this confrontation, not very much an antagonistic confrontation, but just a sort of, off the cuff, having a discussion that is going on between Obi and Shirayuki, where he basically says, do you wish Zen wasn't a prince, And I don't think he's actually saying it in a scathing fashion. He's more so saying, do you wish you didn't have to tiptoe on eggshells to be with Zen, to be able to, have a relationship with him, a friendship with him, not have to go through all of these different hurdles and trials and tribulations just to hang out together. Shirayuki pointedly says, because I think she's feeling in terms of being proud of Zen, being proud of his position, and wanting to see him be strong and go ever onward in that position. She doesn't ever want him to, have those doubts that maybe she perceives there is a little bit on his shoulders. And so she pointedly responds, if you ever ask me that again, if you ever say that again, I'm going to be personally insulted. And so that sort of lays that to rest for the moment. But of course we see that Zen and Mitsuhide have overheard all of this. And Mitsuhide, it's through his eyes that we call back on the past, because very much in parallel to Zen, appointing Obi the sort of protector and, guard or whatever you want to call him, attendant of Shirayuki, we are going back to when, effectively Izana had appointed Mitsuhide in the role for Zen. And they had a very antagonistic sort of quality between them as well when they first were introduced. Zen being very much, all through the course of this series, as Izana has been introduced, we are seeing levels of his being the elder brother prince. He's that much further along in having to consider their surroundings and people they interact with, and all of these different, responsibilities for that position. Whereas Zen has been much more rebelistic. He is sneaking out. He's going and hanging out with a friend of his, this young man Atri, who's an archer, and is, I guess, only there for a limited time or whatever it is. And he's sneaking out and having lunch with him and hanging out with him and everything like that. And this is a really, the closest he has to a friendship. And there's a level of that weight on his shoulders that, if it weren't for the fact that I'm a prince, I wouldn't have to live like this. So utmost protected and so untrusting of people. And, you have Mitsuhide being sort of right in stride with him after the very first time where he had to catch up with Zen. From that point on, we see that he's kind of falling back, but he is in step with Zen, and he's keeping a watchful eye on him. He gets a glimpse of this Atri, boy, and he brings it up to Izana. And Izana, as we find, has the right motivation as to why he wants Zen protected and followed by somebody to keep a watchful eye on him. It's because apparently he's been ousting, these more derogatory, selfish, families that are supposed to be of some nobility. He's just sending them packing. When people are lining their own pockets and not taking care of the rest of the people of their town or their families or what have you, Izana apparently has this morality, this nobility in his own right, that he's not going to tolerate it. And here you have effectively this just pitched betrayal. And I did wonder, because as soon as we're introduced to Atri, I'm like, we've never seen this kid before. He's probably not going to make it out of this episode alive. I didn't expect it to go the way it did, though. I thought maybe he'd be killed in action, a war against another country or something like that. And Zen would come to mull over that level of, I got close to somebody who was like a sort of an underling, soldier fodder under my princely position, and I have to be more worldly in how I, take all of that in. But in fact, it was much more closer cut, much more closer cut to the bone, effectively, of betrayal, because as we find, Atri basically lets Zen know, well, I'm not going to be able to come around during the day anymore. It's going to have to be at night. And thanks to Mitsuhide being suspicious of this and bringing it, to Izana's attention, they are able to catch things right when Zen sneaks out in the middle of the night one night to go, hang out with his friend Atri. And here is Atri wounded, and I was like, whoa. What the hell happened? Did he get in, the middle of a fight? Did Izana find him and this was an attack? And maybe that was going to show further, dissension between the brothers or something, like the brother had found Atri and, suspected him of ill will. But in fact, I had jumped the gun, because all of a sudden we have a Vincent Valentine cosplayer who's the leader of the Lido family, who was a family taken down by Izana because they were selfish. They were being pirates, and they all look like pirates anyway, but they were lining their own pockets, very much as I say. Izana is looking for and ousting such so-called noble families that are responsible for doing these kinds of ill-gotten gains, and this was all a revenge plot. They wanted to take Zen captive to get to Izana. Mitsuhide gets there, Izana comes out, and I thought it was frickin' just all kinds of badass. Mitsuhide and Izana taking all of these guys out so cunningly, with their swords and everything. And you have this, crescendo confrontation between Zen and Atri, where Atri pulls out his bow and arrow. And you can see that Izana is observing what's going on, even as he's fending off the leader of the Lido family or whatever, this syndicate, this Vincent Valentine-looking mother trucker. And he's like, Mitsuhide, and Mitsuhide gets there right at that last second. And with his own blade, just as the arrow is fired, he cuts it down in midair, and then he cuts down Atri too. And Zen has a cruel lesson to be learned from this, and I think it's something that has definitely colored his character, in that he still is rebelling against his position, but it's not like he hasn't learned a lesson from this. The unfortunate side of it is the lesson learned is a burden on his shoulders. As Mitsuhide says, he never even realized how big the burden was, to have to not be able to be friendly with people and not be able to be caring and concerned for people, because every single person you face toward could be out to get you, could be out to, it could be a revenge plot in the making, it could be somebody trying to usurp your power, it could be whatever it is, And so this young man Atri dies in Zen's hand, and he learns that lesson very coldly and cruelly. His brother was involved in that, and maybe there is some mixed emotions, on Zen's part, antagonistic, like, why weren't you more helpful in my learning this lesson, or why weren't you there for me, or whatever, because of course there is still that, antagonistic quality between them, even in the present. But it's just, it was a compelling episode because we see now, again, colors of Zen's own personality and why he conducts himself the way he does. There are certain elements of his personality that is still very much devil may care, very impatient to a degree, and he definitely doesn't like, in every facet, all the responsibility heaped upon him for his position as a prince, younger brother prince though he may be. And because of Izana's way of, dealing with things, of course, by ousting these lesser than honorable and noble families, they're going to be gunning for this family, Wistel family, Wistel Castle and everything. And they're going to want their just desserts. They're going to want what they feel they are owed, whether that be vengeance, whether that be, hold Zen for some kind of payment, that kind of thing, hold him hostage. Whatever it is, there are dangers, and Izana understands that. And Zen may feel kind of, disconcerted by that, because he may feel like, well, I had a friend, and even though that friend had turned on me and was actually somebody ready to, sitting in the wings ready to betray me, there could be a level of his, well, this wouldn't have happened in the first place if Izana wasn't doing what he was doing. And so it's just very interesting, this sort of, zoning in on their character dynamics, their relationships, and how, as I say, the past, the flashbacks, impact the present and also parallel the present in Mitsuhide and Zen's being, put together, as Obi and Shirayuki are now put together. And so it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 8 of Akagami no Shirayuki-hime, or Snow White with the Red Hair, if you've seen it, if you enjoyed it as much as I did. If not, why not? Let me know in the comments below. Love having the conversation with you guys. And so yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well. And I'll catch you all later. Peace.